the tape all fall to get a chance to see them on display. So a lot of fun coming up in the next couple weeks.
Well, I want to get to what we're going to discuss because this is going to be a fun episode here. Let's start. First of all, we're going to have a conversation with Jordan Love, one of the most intriguing quarterback prospects in this year's draft class. Also, we're going to talk about some quarterbacks, as we always do here. Preview the quarterbacks, the top 5 guys, which in no particular order: Tua Tagovailoa, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Jordan Love, Jacob Eason. We will break all those guys down on today's show, Buck.
Yeah, look, man, a lot of fun. You can never get enough conversation about the quarterbacks. It's so important to the game. But this year, we got some really good quarterbacks coming in. So, look, man, let's just get right to it.
All right, let's get right to it here. We mentioned Jordan Love, fascinating player. Big 2018, struggled in 2019, but somebody that all draft fans need to know. Now it's time for Road to Vegas, presented by Caesars Entertainment, an official host of the 2020 NFL Draft. All right, Buck, excited to be joined by one of the top quarterbacks in this year's draft class, in Jordan Love. And Jordan, I would guess that the first question you're probably getting from most teams as you talk to them, the difference between a whole new situation with you from last year to this year, a bunch of new players, new coaching staff. How was the transition for you?
Yeah, I just describe it as it was a grind, it was work. Obviously losing coaching staff, getting a new coaching staff in, losing 9 of the 11 starters on offense. So it's like the whole summer, whole season, I mean, it's been a grind, just trying to get it where it needs to be, get the offense where it needs to be, at just where we can, perform at a high level. I feel like it started coming together towards the end of the season. We just like I said, we were just working on all season trying to get it to that level.
So in thinking about that adversity that you faced, like trying to get so many new guys on the same page, it'd be very, very similar to being a high draft pick and coming into a situation that has been downtrodden. Why will your situation in Utah State help you be a better pro?
I think it will help me a lot. Obviously just the adversity I had to face throughout that year, and then handled it. We went 7-6. Obviously didn't have the season we wanted to have, but we did some good things this year. But obviously it relates to the same situation, coming into a new team, new coaches and new players, new faces. You got to learn all that. So similar situations.
Bucky hit on that word, adversity. A lot of times you go back through and look at guys you got right or guys you got wrong. A lot of times kids haven't been through any adversity at the college level, even on the field, off the field. The first time that hits in the NFL level, they don't know how to handle it. You've had tremendous adversity, as you mentioned, on the field. Also, you had tremendous adversity off the field. How were you able to get through some of those difficult moments?
Yeah, I mean, I've had, look at my life, I've had a lot of adversity in my life. Obviously, my dad passing away when I was 14, that was, that was the biggest step of adversity that I had to face, and handle that. And the way I look at it, I mean, I can handle that, I can handle anything else. Nothing's going to be as hard as that was. So, all these other things they're minor things. Yeah, like I said, I can handle adversity. It's something that I wouldn't want to happen, but if that situation comes about, I can handle it.
Thinking about handling things, we've seen the National Football League is undergoing an evolution at the quarterback position. We're seeing more guys with athleticism and these traits where they can run it. Looking at your background, you played basketball, you dabbled in gymnastics when you were little. How would those other sports help you be a better player at the next level?
Yeah, I think it all ties into, your athletic ability. Just the more you can do, the better you're going to be. They have different elements, to being a leader in different areas of sports. Some are individual sports, some are team sports. You just got to learn. But I think, the more sports you can play, the more, of an athlete you can be, the more, diverse you can be. So.
Hold up, man. Gymnastics, I got to know more about gymnastics. Tell me, what, is this I can do a cartwheel, a somersault, or is this are we talking back handsprings? What are we talking about?
No, this is when I was real little. My sister, my little sister, she was really good at gymnastics. So, my mom, she was like, you know what, put you in gymnastics a little bit. So I tried it for a year. Definitely not something that.
Okay, so we've got to oversell this. I think I got Mary Lou Retton over here, and it's just you doing a somersault as a 4-year-old.
They tried to put me in the splits, and I couldn't do it. And I was like, this is the breaking point for me. I'm gonna have to go. Tried it.
So it's funny because I'm sure you will hear this as we continue to go forward. We talked about the evolution of the National Football League. There have been some comparisons made between you and Patrick Mahomes. When you've seen Patrick Mahomes, is there any little bit of his game that might be in your game?
Yeah, I mean, I just look at a guy like Patrick Mahomes. I mean, crazy arm strength, crazy, just ability to throw the ball, different angles and stuff like that. I think I have that. That's where I see similarities, and just being able to make plays. Like I said, throwing it, sidearm, throwing crazy deep passes, just being able to make plays. I mean, that's where I think you can compare us, and I feel like that, I'm comparable to him in that aspect.
Well, the first tape that I watched studying you over the summer was watching you against Michigan State last year. You have a throw in that game that's as good as anybody's had in this entire draft. That's one of the best throws that I've ever seen against Michigan State, one down the field. Can you recall, what the play call was, what you saw, and how you executed on that one?
Which play are you talking about?
That's a deep one. I want to say you were rolling to the left,
Okay,
rolling to the left and throwing to the left.
I remember what play that was. Yeah, I mean, the play, it was 69 posts. So, I mean, I had my post wheel from the outside receivers. I had a stick route from number 3. So I got off that, DN, beat the tackle inside, so I had to get out the pocket, started rolling, saw my wheel downfield, kind of just threw a sidearm. Ended up not being able to complete the catch. So
it was ridiculous. So now I want to ask you about one more, because I'm watching the LSU game this year. I want to say it's right before, it's in the second quarter, towards the end of the second quarter. You hit a corner route going over to the left that was dropped in that game as well. You remember what the call was there and what you saw? Unfortunately, all these highlights don't end with the guy catching the football, Jordan, but they were amazing throws.
I can't even think. You said a corner route?
I believe it was a corner route. It was about 2 or 3 minutes before halftime. I think this one you were going to the right and hit a corner route down the field.
I know during the LSU game I had scrambled to the right on one.
Might even have been a post coming across.
It was. I know one. It was a slant, and when I scrambled, my receiver CLC, he kind of turned it into like a deep kind of like a corner route.
Yeah.
Threw it over top, but he caught it.
Did he catch that one?
He was one-handed.
Okay.
He hurt his shoulder on that play, but that was that's what we're talking about now. That was a
good one. I think it might even have been a post that had been dropped in that game at some point.
Over the middle.
Yeah. So all the things that you guys are describing, just in listening to the conversation, it speaks to a gunslinger's mentality. And gunslingers are ones who are fearless, they're courageous, they continue to throw in the tight windows regardless of turnovers and the like. How do you maintain that aggressive mentality even if you've had some mistakes early in the game?
I mean, being a gunslinger, especially going off this year, a lot of mistakes. But you just got to be able to stay confident and that I can make the throws. Obviously, just situational, get smarter on decisions I need to make. Not force the ball when I don't need to, but still have just that confidence to be able to make those throws.
Man, it's been fun to watch you, continue to grow. I know this year you talk about all those new pieces around you. But look, we can't judge what the other results are. We can judge how you perform. Man, you're an exciting player to watch. Is there any one goal this week here at the Senior Bowl you're looking to get accomplished?
Honestly, I just want to show what I can do. I think a goal for me, just be able to learn this offense and perfect it. Obviously, it's going to be something new, being the center and stuff like that. Something I didn't do at Utah State, but something that I can do, and I just want to be able to show that I can do it.
I just look forward to getting you in a pro system. So when you think about the opportunity to play in a pro-style system, something that's different than what you were at Utah State, what do you think the challenges will be this week in learning a new offense, and how you expect to overcome those challenges?
I'm not sure what, obviously the challenges for me, just learning the plays. I don't think that's something that'll be a problem with me, just being able to learn in a quick time. But I think the football part, I think I'll be fine with that. I don't think I'll have any challenges with that. So just go out there and play.
Well, we're looking forward to it, man. Thank you for your time today. We'll be catching up with you probably at the Combine and your pro day, all the way through the whole process. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Road to Vegas presented by Caesars Entertainment, an official host of the 2020 NFL Draft. And Buck, really fascinating there to talk to Jordan Love and kind of hear his story and kind of understanding what transpired from 18 to 19.
Yeah, it's a huge deal because I believe he's the biggest wild card at the position. If you go back 2 years ago, this guy's a top 10 talent. He made all the throws. He was really good with his decision making. He lifted up his team and consistently led them to the winner circle. Fast forward to last year, wasn't the same player. Too many turnovers, didn't necessarily have the same support system around him, and it kind of affected his play. What really helps Jordan Love is what I'm going to call the Patrick Mahomes bounce, because so many of us missed on Patrick Mahomes. We couldn't neglect or look past the Sandlot play. We couldn't ignore that he kind of fell off the rails or whatever, and we just wondered, could he take this style and let it translate to the National Football League?
Well, now when you look at a Jordan Love, because Pat Mahomes has had a level of success, you may be more willing to embrace Jordan Love and all of his flaws because the talent is there, and right coach, right system, right encouragement could have a star in your hands.
All right, Buck. Well, one of the challenges in this draft is trying to sort out these quarterbacks. Really, kind of going 1 to 5. I think if you polled every team in the league, you're going to get a wide variety of answers in terms of how you slot these guys and how you rank these guys. But I do think it's worth having that discussion. I know we have some different thoughts on these guys, and I think the folks at home will enjoy hearing those. Let's go through what we're looking to see from some of these quarterbacks here at the Combine, Buck, and we can kind of we can work off your list. I know you just pumped out your top 5, which folks can find NFL.com/Bucky Brooks. You can find all Bucky's lists there of his top 5 quarterbacks. So why don't you start us off, Buck? We'll work through your top 5 and talk about what you think we need to see from these guys at the Combine.
Well, obviously the biggest news in my top 5 list, I had Tua Tagovailoa at the top of the charts. And DJ, I think the big thing for Tua, obviously you won't get a chance to see him work out. I think what may be lost on the outside when it comes to the Tua conversation and evaluation is the kid, is the character part of it that will blow people away when he sits across from them. We all have talked about sitting in the room, and when the guy walks in the room, you can just tell. They captivate the room. Everyone is kind of sitting on the edges of their seat listening to them. They have a commanding presence, one that you can tell will radiate in the locker room. I think Tua has that. And so we won't get a chance to physically see him, but evaluators will get a chance to meet him. And yes, they'll track the progress of the hip and kind of see where that is, but they will really get a chance to see, hey, who is this guy? Where is he at in terms of his football IQ and his development, his character? Can we envision him being the leader of our franchise? Could we trust him to be the CEO of the brand? And I think the more people get to know him, the more the conversation is going to shift like, hey, wait a minute, like we were really high on Tua for most of the year, coming into the year, the middle of the season. Yes, he's had a series of injuries, but let's not just kind of completely dismiss him in terms of being QB1 potentially in this draft.
I think people expect you, in order for you to be a Tua guy or a Burrow guy, you've got to trash the other one. And that's just not the case, man. To me, it's these two guys. There is a significant gap after them before you get to the next group of quarterbacks. That's where the cutoff is. So, as we go up to the draft, Bucky's is Tua over Burrow. I have Burrow over Tua. I'm not going to sit here and fight with you, Buck, because I really like Tua. There's a lot of things I really like about his game. The durability kind of is the tiebreaker for me, and that's why I go in the other direction with Burrow. But man, there's a lot to like about Tua's game, and I wrote down when I was taking my notes from my paper and putting it in the computer. The first thing I wrote down is that, to me, the image that sticks out in my mind is as a card dealer. If you've ever sat at a table or whatever and seen a professional card dealer, just how fast they just flip those cards all the way around the table, Buck, that's Tua. That's how he plays the game, with that quickness and just the ball just out right now. And that's how he does it. He doesn't have to push the ball 60 yards down the field every snap. Read it, identify it, get it out, boom, 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 boom. That's kind of how he plays the game.
It's funny that you said that, right? I host my radio show over the weekend, and one of the things, like my co-host asked, he said, hey, well, who does he kind of compare to? I said, well, when you see him physically, he is built like Russell Wilson, and his demeanor is probably a little more Russell-like than most. However, he plays the game in a manner that reminds you of Drew Brees. And so if you're an evaluator and I throw those two names out in a meeting, you're going to look around and be like, well, I'll sign up for that. I'll sign up for that all day if I get a combination of Russell Wilson and Drew Brees. And so, look, I think he's a terrific player. The biggest thing is going to be the health concerns, and everyone is going to say this. And this comment will kind of cloud both of the evaluations in terms of Tua and Joe Burrow. They play with 5-star playmakers on the outside. They got all these receivers and whatever. And I'll say this. Great teams have great players. There's a reason why Alabama's always in the mix. There's a reason why LSU won a national championship. There's a reason why Trevor Lawrence at Clemson has guys around him. Championship caliber teams have championship caliber players more than just at one spot. And so it's one of those things where you're going to be challenged when you're doing the evaluation to be able to project those throws and see, can he make tight window throws? Can he throw with touch timing and anticipation? How does his game translate to the league when everything is sped up and a little faster? And I'll say with both of these guys, Tua and Joe Burrow, both of their games translate really, really well to the league.
All right, you mentioned Burrow next there, Buck. What do you want to see there?
Look, man, this is a great player. And I don't know what Joe Burrow is going to do, but I think coming in, he's already checked off so many boxes that you look for in a franchise quarterback. Tough, athletic, competitive, high football IQ, great vision player. He is a guy, obviously, where people are talking about him being an all-state basketball player. I think that served him well. I think he plays the game like a John Stockton in his heyday, like just a distributor, playmaker, leader, does all of those things. The biggest thing, and he won't be able to answer for it now, is just getting around him and being able to say, hey, man, your game really went from 5 to 10 your senior season. What would you attribute that to? And let him talk about the development, the personal development that he had, and then let him weave in, hey, Joe Brady, this offense, I had mastery of the offense, how we played, the people around. I just would like to hear that conversation, because I think that conversation will really lead you to believe, look, Joe Burrow can take what he did at LSU, and that will continue to work well in the National Football League. And I think so much of it is like when you're making this debate and conversation between Tua and Burrow, and you talk about the one-year production, and people may hear that and say, oh, you're saying he's a one-year wonder. No, you're not saying that. You just – like if you have to have questions for all these guys, you just kind of want to know, well, what was the difference in your junior year and your senior year? Why did it pop? Why did it explode so much for you? And then just hear it.
The interesting thing about the Tua and Burrow discussion is we talked about it the other day with Burrow having thrown more passes in college than Tua, almost 300, I think, more attempts.
Yeah.
So he's played football. He's played some football. And the interesting thing is, if you kind of look at both being with great players, which would be, accepted by everybody, like you mentioned, Buck, I think if you looked at their performance against the top-tier competition, because their teams are so good, 60% of the schedule for for LSU and for Alabama, they're just going to be so much better than everybody they play against. But when they played against better competition, I think those numbers steer and stack a little bit in Joe Burrow's favor, even though we concede they're both playing with great players. But he had a lot of quality games against quality competition, whereas some of these other quarterbacks, when you're looking at them, go with an Eason or, if you look at the whole list of other guys, Jordan Love, they might have played against 3 or 4 quality opponents during their career. This guy played against 7 or 8 of them in 1 year.
Look, what Joe Burrow did this year was nothing short of remarkable. It can be safely categorized as maybe the greatest season that we've ever seen a college football player have in history. The amount of top 10 teams that they took down, who he played against, how he dominated them, what they looked like when you watch the tape. Look, he took his game up a notch. And I will say this, the maturity that he displayed, obviously he's a fifth-year player, so he's been around. You're talking about 22, 23 years old. Just from a cognitive standpoint, it should put you in a position to be a leader to handle those moments, and he did. And so I don't know how you can take that away from him. He's just a really, really good football player, a guy who should have tremendous success in the National Football League. And I think when it comes down to these two guys, it's unfortunate they won't be able to go toe-to-toe in terms of at the combine. It's really just a matter of, and I've said this comparison, I said it's a matter of Tony Romo and Drew Brees from a stylistic standpoint. Like, what would you prefer to have as your QB1? And I don't think you can go wrong with either player. It's just a matter of who do you envision being your quarterback of the next 10 years.
No doubt. All right, who do you got going down through this list here?
So, look, next is Justin Herbert. And we talked about Justin Herbert a little bit, like coming from the Senior Bowl. I think the big thing for Justin Herbert, can people get comfortable with the what appears to be a very quiet persona? Like, he seems to be kind of introverted. Can his personality work in an NFL locker room? I think having been around him at the Senior Bowl, look, he played well. I think he did himself well by being around there. He won MVP. He played well, but more importantly, when you watched him interact with teammates, watched him lead, watched him practice, I think you come away with a better sense of who he is. I think this guy's talented, and I think the thing that he can answer. I kind of want to know the up and down performances against big teams We talked about the Auburn game. We talked about some of the other moments that he has had last year in the bowl game. Didn't necessarily play his best. So which Justin Herbert is going to show up in the National Football League? Through conversations, I would like to get to know him a little better so I can get a better sense of like how he's built, how he's constructed, what is this football character like, and how is that character going to be conveyed to his teammates.
Yeah, there's a lot to like about Justin Herbert. When you talk about the size, the mobility, the arm strength, there's some wow throws. You saw some design quarterback run game, what he can do there. I went back and rewatched the SC game the other day.
Yeah.
He was more aggressive with his legs in that one. The opportunity to present itself, take it and go. Wanted to see a little bit more of that throughout his career than maybe we saw, especially this year. There's some, in terms of what are you looking for at the combine, there's a couple mechanical things that I put down here that I really want to keep an eye on, watch him throw, because sometimes his front shoulder flies open, and when that happens, his accuracy suffers in a big way, and you'll have some bad misses. So can you keep your front shoulder tucked in? That's one thing. And number two, and it's almost a feel thing, but when I watch him, I wrote down several times, like, he's guiding the football. Just let it rip, man. Just throw it. And he's trying to guide it, trying to make a perfect throw instead of just throwing the ball. And when he does that, it kind of affects and impacts his touch. So, I want to see that. Just let it rip. Don't guide the football. Keep your front shoulder in. Don't fly open, and let's see, how he throws the football, because the velocity is going to be there, Buck. He's got a huge arm. We know he's a really good athlete. He's a 4+ student, in terms of 4.0+ student. He's phenomenal in terms of his intelligence. So I want to see a more consistent thrower. And the one thing we can't see at the combine is I just want to see an overall more aggressive attacking style and demeanor on the field, and that's something we're not going to get to see in Indy.
No, it's funny. So you brought up a couple of things that stand out to me. You talked about him feeling like he's guiding the ball, like he didn't let it go. And DJ, in my experience, sometimes when you have high IQ players and athletes, because they want to succeed and they want everything to be perfect, it's hard for them to kind of cut it loose and just kind of play freely. Whereas when you look at Joe Burrow and you look at even Tua, like, man, they just kind of rip it. They just kind of play. They play through their mistakes. They don't worry about it. And I would like to get around Justin and just know, hey, man, look, it's okay to have a mistake. And I think for Justin Herbert more than any other person, I believe the coach and who is directly in touch with him at the next level matters. His quarterback coach, his head coach, particularly if it's a head coach that's offensive playmaker, what is their personalities like? Because I'm not saying this as a knock for Justin Herbert, but I believe he needs a nurturer more so than a hard-nosed, grinded-out coach. I think a nurturer –
more carrot than stick.
Yeah, I think a nurturer would kind of bring that out in him. And I think you'll see him blossom. I think if you have one of those hard-nosed, grizzled guys that is kind of on him, whacking his hand with the ruler every day, I think that doesn't play to the strong parts of his personality. And I don't know if we'll ever see him unlock his full potential and his game.
No doubt. All right, who's next, Buck?
After that, I had Jordan Love. And part of the fascination, I believe, with Jordan Love stems from what we call the Pat Mahomes bounce. You and I sat here a few years ago when Pat Mahomes came in. We had him top 5s, top 50 lists. Like, we weren't sure on what he would be. In fact, I found a clip at the Combine when Pat Mahomes was coming out. I'm like, hey, he's a sandlot player. I don't know if I've ever seen this work in the league. I mean, look, it's a bad comparison now, but I compared him to Jay Cutler in terms of how he played. When I saw Jay Cutler play at Vanderbilt, Jay Cutler had to take a cast of no-names and kind of do everything, and he was very reckless with the football. The Pat Mahomes that I watched at Texas Tech was kind of like that. I say that because when I look at Jordan Love, here's an interesting thing. What if Jordan Love's years were flipped, DJ? Meaning that the way that he performed this year was last year, and the way that he performed last year was this year. What would that conversation be?
Be a top 10 pick.
Right. So now, as an evaluator, do you look at the entire body of work? How do you characterize the previous year compared to this year? Like, how much weight do you put into that when the circumstances were different, who was around him, and the like? Because maybe I'm low on him just based on the way that he finished up his career. Maybe if we go back and look at everything and really study everything, maybe he does deserve to be up there with Herbert. Maybe he deserves to be ahead of Herbert. Like, he's talented. It's just a matter of sequencing the years to understand who he is and what he is.
Here's the thing. If you like Justin Herbert, or if you like Jordan Love, you are making the comparison to Mahomes.
Yep.
And you're saying you reverse the years, and that's what you're running with. And the 2018 is the real Jordan Love, and we're going to get the next Pat Mahomes. If you're not a Jordan Love guy, you're saying, oh my gosh, this is DeShone Kizer all over again. He might have given you some hope earlier on in his career, but we saw what he was at the end, and he tried to tell you who he was. You got to believe him. So that's the two edges of the spectrum here that we're talking about. I wrote down just the hero ball, Buck. He was so impressive in 18, and then the turnovers came in bunches. Obviously lost 9 starters, head coach, offensive coordinator. So there's a lot of reasons for that. When you see the skills, he's fluid and loose, explosive. The ball jumps out of his hand. He makes these off-platform throws that are incredible. And I've been Love over Herbert. They're right next to each other. I got a lot more I want to dig into and study with these two before I eventually make that final call before we get to the draft. It's a marathon and not a sprint here, Buck. But I'll tell you what, it's challenging my courage because I just went through and did all the linebackers for the Combine. And so I spent 2 or 3 days just plowing through all the guys I hadn't done yet and knocked out linebackers. And got to one, and I said, whoa, nice interception versus Jordan Love. I write that in my notes. I can talk about that at the Combine. He picked off Jordan Love. 3 linebackers later, nice little pick there on Jordan Love. I make sure I talk about this. And then after about the 3rd or 4th time I saw it, I said, this is not an accomplishment. Everybody that they played against got interceptions against this dude. So it is challenging my courage and conviction as an evaluator when you're going and doing all these defensive players and you see all these picks and then you see drop picks. The turnovers, we see it with a guy like Jameis, right? Those turnovers. You see it even with Darnold. I love Sam Darnold, but some of those issues he had have carried over in terms of some of the turnovers. That stuff sticks with you. So, I want to believe that 2018 is the real version, but I can't. 2019 is still there. You can't divorce yourself from that.
Yeah, it's funny, and I think it's tough. DJ, like what's interesting about it, and it would be great, and maybe this is an exercise that I'll do, but if I could play matchmaker with quarterback and coach. Because a lot of Pat Mahomes' success, I would say, can be directly attributed to Andy Reid. Not necessarily that Andy Reid deserves all of the credit for Pat Mahomes' success, but what Andy Reid has been able to do. He coached Pat Mahomes into playing winning football. And of all the quarterbacks in NFL history, Pat Mahomes has the 3rd lowest interception rate. He's right behind Aaron Rodgers, who's first, and Tyrod Taylor is actually second. But Pat Mahomes learned how to harness some of the gunslinger and to avoid some of the hero ball. With Jordan Love, I would want to know how amenable is he to being able to play winning football? Can he turn down the extra cookie that is hanging on the shelf and be like, no, I don't want the cookie. I'm going to go get a piece of fruit because I don't want my sweet tooth to pack on a couple more pounds. If he can do that, if he can avoid those hero moments that lead to turnovers while still retaining some of that aggressiveness and assertiveness from the pocket, you could be unlocking a potential superstar at the position. I'm not calling him Pat Mahomes, but I do see enough of him to say, look, I can envision this guy being a player who plays at a high level in the league and kind of has us wondering, man, why didn't we take him sooner? Next one that I had on my list was Jacob Eason from University of Washington.
Yeah.
Eason is interesting because when it comes to the physical traits, he has it all. Like, he has a big arm. A tremendous arm. He can make all the throws that you want to see. Very, very talented. Arguably one of the more talented, if not the most talented player in the class. But what you see is inconsistencies in terms of the accuracy, inconsistent performance. Look, he didn't have a lot around him at UW this year. You also have to go back and try and figure out how come he couldn't fend off Jake Fromm at Georgia. But from a talent perspective, he's intriguing, he's enticing, and I can see a team that already has a quarterback in place pulling the trigger on Jacob Eason and trying to develop just a little bit more before he becomes a starter for a team.
Yeah, he is a big, strong pocket passer who makes some. You talk about wow throws. He has got a huge arm, and there's some games you watch. The Oregon game, Utah, he played pretty well in that one as well. Good competition. He played really well. Then you watch like the Stanford game and some other games, and you just kind of left scratching your head. The touch and the anticipation are 2 areas he's got to improve on. Now, I don't know how much at the Combine you're going to get to see that because he's working with all these receivers he doesn't know. The arm strength will be evident. You'll see that jump off. But just being able to layer the ball, touch the ball up a little bit, not everything hard and flat, that's going to be a challenge for him. And the other thing I would say is he's got some bad habits pocket movement-wise. He tries to spin out of everything. You never want to turn your back on the defense unless it's absolutely necessary. He does it all the time. So some of those drills where you see guys climb up, move around the pocket, I want to see how comfortable he is kind of getting off his spot and then throwing the football.
I don't know if you can improve touch and anticipation. I don't know if you can do it. I think it may be one of those situations where a coach can help you by creating bigger windows, meaning play action. You're able to kind of mask, like guys who have problems with touch and anticipation. What you can do is you can be a real heavy play action team, so the windows are bigger, so they're throwing to these huge voids rather than having to kind of like throw guys open. And maybe you can do some of that, but with the systems that are being run today, the teams that kind of use those things, Minnesota with Kirk Cousins, San Francisco 49ers with Jimmy Garoppolo, your quarterback has to be mobile enough to kind of get outside and do some of those things so you can always change the spot. So Jacob Eason's athleticism will need to come up big. He needs to show that he's a mobile athlete. And as you talked about, the escapability and some of those climb and escape drills, he has to show that he's light enough on his feet to be able to do things when the pocket collapses, and he won't just kind of be a sitting duck, that you have to have a fortress in front of him or he's non-functional.
All right, Buck. Well, look, there's no finish line right in front of us right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no checkered flag. There's no what is it? The green flag? You're from North Carolina. The green flag, is that what tells you you're going on your last lap?
Yeah,
is that what it is?
One of those. I can't remember. It's been a minute. I know we just coming off the Daytona 500 not too long ago, but I can't remember.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. So, anyways, we still got some time, is what I'm getting to here, to get these guys all slotted and sorted and figured out here. But it is a fascinating quarterback group, and look forward to continuing on that discussion as we march towards the draft. All right, that's going to do it for us today. I hope you guys have enjoyed the show. Always great to be with you, Buck, talking about these players. We've got plenty more conversation to come, both on the video shows as well as on the audio shows. But I do want to thank you guys so much for watching us here on Move the Sticks, presented by Caesars Entertainment.